Blazer fans, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. This is John Duncan, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Steve Irvine. And guys, I know it's been a while. It's been a while since you've seen us in your feed, but we are back and ready to roll. And Steve, I guess off the top, even though this is going to be a basketball episode to just kind of bring Blazer fans and everybody up to speed about, what's been going on with basketball this season, we've got to talk about the Super Bowl, man. A shout out, to Darius Williams and also the Rams GM, Les Snead, both former, of the UAB football program. Just congrats to both of those guys for getting a ring.
Yeah, that was so cool to see. I didn't really feel like I had much of a rooting interest. I wouldn't call myself a fan of either team, except for the UAB folks, and I was really happy for, Darius Williams to, his story is just so incredible of what he's been through and the persistence that he's had and just the faith he's had in himself. And, now he's not only has he got a Super Bowl ring, but he's on a doorstep of getting a huge contract, which, you really love to see. And, obviously the Super Bowl ring is the thing that's, kind of jumps out to him right now. He's leading tackler, and that's the one thing about Darius Williams, man. He's just so steady, always was, always, a guy that came through, walk-on tryouts. And, honestly, his first walk-on tryout was under McGee, and they didn't even really have it. He got canceled, and then he didn't think he was going to be able to play. And then he had a walk-on tryout with, Coach Clark when he first got there. And, I remember talking to him about it one time, and he said it was so short that he went home thinking like, well, there's no way, they didn't, I don't have a chance. And, gets the call and ends up making plays that year. And then turns out to be such a great player for him and great player in the NFL. So it's great to see. And, Les Snead's been around a long time, and built that team. And you got to give him a lot of credit for this thing now. A lot of it's, kind of behind the scenes when you think about GMs, but it's really such a crucial position for any franchise. And he did a great job. So it's great. It's great to see. It's great to be able to say that, the UAB football program has a ring now, has a Super Bowl ring. Now, Rick Christophel was assistant coach last year for Tampa Bay, and he's got him a ring too. So that's
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a guy that's a UAB guy as far as the former coach. He didn't play at UAB, but so that has a little flavor to it. UAB flavor to it, obviously. But so it's neat. It's neat to see.
Yeah, definitely good for Darius, for sure. And guys, before we get into our basketball episode that we have for you guys today, real quick, if you're not subscribed to our podcast on a podcast platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you're listening to this right now, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any future episodes of the Blazer Victory Podcast in your feed. And, as we mentioned off the top of the show, it's been a while, but we are, back and ready to roll and, get into this basketball season, Steve. UAB is currently 19-6 overall on the season, and they're coming in at 9-3 in Conference USA and second place in the Conference USA West Division. And, man, I know we had talked a few days ago about, definitely getting back in the swing of things. I'm recording some episodes to follow out the basketball season. And me and you, we had a little disagreement there for a little bit, in regards to, net rankings and RPI and all that, hoopla. And, we were debating on because I was on the mindset, hey, beat ODU, take care of business. And, hope that North Texas keeps winning heading into the big matchup in Bartow Saturday. But, to help the at-large chances. But, hey, I guess you could throw all that out the window now because, unfortunately, our Blazers did lose on Super Bowl Sunday to ODU. But, hey, Steve, I don't want to, diminish this basketball team, too much because it's still a hell of a season so far. You're 19-6. Yeah, you don't control your own destiny in regards to getting that number one seed in the West Division now, because you definitely need you need North Texas to, lose at least one game, and hopefully FAU helps us out this Thursday night. But I mean, it's still setting up to be a nice season, and I hope, all UAB has to do is just win out and then get North Texas to drop, at least one other game, and hopefully that's FAU Thursday night. And UAB sitting pretty good at the number one seed in the West when it comes to the tournament in Frisco coming up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I think that that's what you have to look at. And it has been a great season, and it has been a frustrating season at the same point. I mean, the same part. I mean, it's one of those things where you look at and think like, there's a lot of nice wins. Obviously, Jelly Walker's playing so well, and just a lot of things that some huge wins at Louisiana Tech, at North Texas, at West Kentucky. Road wins that are just huge. But then again, the disappointing losses and including some in non-conference that you could be sitting here with a lot better record and at this point than you are. So it's one of those things where it's you sort of look at both ways. I mean, me, I'm one of those look at the bright side of things. It could be a lot worse. But obviously you just gotta scratch your head on the three losses in conference. It's just how does that happen? And so and I know that Andy Kennedy scratched his head over those. I know the players are. I know that everybody involved with it is. So it's not like we're the only ones going, boy, I wonder how that happened. It just shows. I mean, you got to come play every night. And hey, bottom line is, as bad as that was on Sunday, the basketball part of it was great. The football part, but right. The basketball part, as bad as it was on Sunday, you're still sitting there. If somehow FAU, a good FAU team, a solid FAU team, can find a way to beat North Texas, and then UAB beats North Texas, all of a sudden you're tied for first. You've got the tiebreaker, so the sun's shining again. So you just. The bottom line is you just got to take care of business. I mean, you got to worry about yourself right now, and you got to go out and win out. And if UAB wins out, they're in good position. That might not be a first place. If they win out, they might end up in second in the West. But that's okay. That's a better position than being in third in the West or fourth in the West and that type of thing. Right. I mean, that's what you're playing for, to get that right seeding, the right path through the conference tournament, because. Hey, all along, really, that's the only way you're guaranteed to get in this thing. I mean, you can talk about numbers, you can talk about bubbles, you can talk about all that, which has been fun to talk about. It's been fun to be able to talk about that in a positive way. Right. But the bottom line is, you don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, probably you were sitting there, even when things are going well, you're sitting there as one of the last four out, or second to last four out, or whatever like that. But just because of the way the tournament's set up, so you're always from day one, especially once conference starts, are angling yourself to be in the best position for the Frisco curtain site, being on the right side of the curtain, I guess. Right. And so you're always angling for that, and getting your best, your best path through there. Not easiest path, because no path's easy. It's your best path through there, and so we'll see. But it starts against Rice, and then the huge game on Saturday.
That's right. And for those that don't know, since Conference USA is in East and they've gone into divisions, well, at least for now for basketball, but the top two seeds in the East and the top two seeds in the West both get a bye to the quarterfinals. So it's very important, for UAB to try to get either that the number one seed or the number two seed in the West. And like Steve just said, if North Texas wins out, they get the number one seed in the West. But if UAB wins out, we get the number two seed in the West. So either way, it's still kind of handling your own business. And, with the podcast, normally I tend to be the Mr. Negative. And I'll be honest, Steve, I had Kim Palm out. I had the net rankings. I had Bertorovic. I had Lenardi.
I did too. I did too. That's what I'm talking about. It's been fun to do that.
Right. But hey, I deleted it all from my phone, so I don't have Kim Palm up anymore. I don't have, Lenardi coming straight to my phone. I still look at him every now and then. But hey, it's win Frisco or nothing now. And honestly, Steve, maybe that's how it was, even going back to the Marshall loss. Maybe after the Marshall loss, maybe that was the, doomsday to at large hopes. But I was still holding on to some hope, of winning out and getting that at large. But it's a moot point now. Hey, we just need to take care of business. Hope North Texas loses at least one other game. Of course, losing to us too, but loses one other game, and UAB sits pretty good at the number 1 seed. Now, let's talk about, maybe some missed opportunities UAB had in the schedule. And, you mentioned, the great road wins. A great road win at St. Louis in the non-con slate. That was a really good win for UAB. Losing to West Virginia, West Virginia's not looking like the best of teams right now. So maybe that was a missed opportunity. Losing to San Francisco back in Las Vegas, early on at a very close game. Maybe that was a missed opportunity. So there were a couple missed opportunities for, in South Carolina too.
South Carolina, absolutely. A road game there that would have been, huge on there. Yeah, I mean, there were certainly missed opportunities, but, again, I mean, that's what's great about basketball, though, is you miss some opportunities, but you still have a chance once conference play begins, and then once conference tournament begins, you still have that chance, and if you're playing at the best you can play at that point, that's a great thing great position to be in. And I mean, let's face it, this team has proven that they have the ability to win that tournament.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This team has also proven they have the ability to be a Mike Davis one and done and try to find a flight home, So, I mean, so that's the thing. They've sort of, they've been very good. I mean, they've been more good than bad. Let's face that. But still, I mean, you have one bad game in that tournament and you're done. I mean, you come out and you play flat. You don't hit shots. You have a guy roll his ankle and doesn't play the rest of the game. Just whatever. Right. And you're done. So, bottom line is you got to go win that thing from the first, and unless you're in a bigger conference and, you can, you don't mind really if you lose. It's all trying to build. But, so we'll see. Right? And again, I mean, I think what's key right now is becoming a better team.
Yeah.
By the time that thing starts, and really, yeah, it's great. I mean, North Texas is your what your sights on right now to get that first spot in the West. But really, the key is staying ahead of Louisiana Tech for both North Texas and UAB. I mean, that's kind of thing. You finish 1 or 2, you're in pretty good shape there. You got that bye, and so really, it's kind of a you're shooting for the top. That's the goal. It's the goal to win the division. For right now, and but you also can't lose too much side of it that you got other teams you're fighting to just stay there with too. Where other team, particularly Louisiana Tech. So, it's fun. I mean, it's intriguing. It's fun to watch. I don't know that it's very fun for the coaches to have that pressure on them right now, but that's why they win the business. So, it's a good thing.
And Steve, let's just talk about, or I want to hear your viewpoint on what you think has happened on these, 3 conference head scratching losses. You lose, at Rice a while back, 85-80. You lose in Huntington to Marshall, 84-81, and then you just drop, Sunday to ODU, 81-72. And we had just got through. UAB's had some great road wins, but what, in your opinion, is going on these 3 losses? Like, is it a mental thing, or is it?
No, I think, and I'm not a big scoreboard watcher type of thing, but you look at that right there, you got 80, 80, 80. I mean, you allowed more than 80 points in every game, and this team is built on as good as Jelly Walker is, scoring, and really some other guys too. But I mean, they're built on their defense winning games for them and creating that offense, creating opportunities. For whatever reason, they didn't guard well in those games.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, whether it's being flat, whatever reason, they didn't play well defensively. I mean, you just look at, and I think that's the difference in North Texas in conference play and UAB in conference play. Is North Texas is so steady playing defense. I mean, they've only the most they've gave up 69 to UAB in a loss,
Mm-hmm.
and the most they've given up other than that is 65 points.
And
Because
I don't think they've lost on the road yet either.
I don't think they have. And so it's to me, both teams rely so heavily on their defense to win games. To create things. They do it in a different way, but that they've been steady on defense. Where UAB's had 3 games where they didn't play defense well, and even like. The other games, a couple games they won, they allowed over 70. One of them was the game at Louisiana Tech. Well, they played tremendously defensively in the first half.
Yeah.
So they did have a half of defense. And in the second half, obviously Louisiana Tech did some things differently than they did in the first half. And, I thought UAB didn't play quite as well defensively, but I think that a lot of that was more Louisiana Tech played better offensively than they did in the first half. But, even then they had a half of really good defense. But in the 3 losses on the road, they just didn't play well in either half defensively, and that was too much to overcome. So I think that's a big thing. And the other thing is just consistency of scoring is tough for UAB overall. Now obviously if Jelly Walker turns into Superman, that's great,
and see though, Steve, I think that's the issue. I think that's one of the problems though. Sometimes I think this team is too reliant on Jelly Walker
no doubt.
He's not going to be able to hit. I mean, I would love to see it, but he's not going to hit 40 every game.
No doubt. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt of that, and I don't think that's uncommon when you have a great scorer. I mean, I think
right.
I think it was the same thing in Vaden's junior year. I mean, it was the same thing in Paul Delaney and Mike Davis's first year.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Delaney was the guy, and they really didn't have a whole lot of answers other than him. So I think that's just a natural thing. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think really the only guy that to me has been consistent throughout the thing, other than Jelly, but is I think Quan Jackson's been very consistent.
Yes.
But I think a lot of his reasons he's consistent is because he uses his defense to create his offense. And I think that's one thing. But I think other than that, guys have had, and I'm not running the other guys down because I think a lot of them have played really well this year. But being 100% consistent, I don't know that there's a whole lot of that going on right now during this conference thing. So at least in the scoring aspect of it. So that's got to change, but it's tough to change. Here's the other thing that I was thinking about this. And I like the transfer portal. Don't get me wrong. Well, I don't like the transfer portal, but I mean, but I understand the transfer portal.
Right. Yeah.
But you get these guys together, and you get a lot of talent from a lot of different directions, and you put them together, and you have really a short time to turn them into a team. Okay. And a lot of these guys are coming, not just at UAB. I'm just talking in general. A lot of these guys are coming from a really big role from where they are, and for some reason they want to either take a step up or they, whatever it may be. And so they've had a different role on their other team that they were on, and you got to mesh this together, and that's hard in a short amount of time. Now I understand why you do the portal stuff. I think Andy Kennedy did and the staff did a great job putting together a darn good team. But it is tough in my opinion, it is tough for any program that does that to have that consistency right away. The teamwork type consistency right. And by right away, I mean the first season. I'm not talking about the first week and then all of a sudden you click. So I think there's a little bit of that in college athletics right now. Even though I do think that Andy Kennedy has really done a great job from what I can see. Now, obviously I'm not, behind the scenes of really meshing these guys together, because I've seen so many cases of these. Well, I mean, you've seen it, particularly in football. You saw it a couple of times where, a quarterback comes in, gets the job, 4 or 5 weeks in the season, just quits, because it went, and so I think he's done a great job, and I think they've done a great job of meshing together as a team. But still, there are a bunch of different guys coming from different places, and I think that plays a role in this thing a little bit. So I think there's a lot, a lot of pieces here. And I think you just got to like me. I think you got to look at the positives of where they are and think if you finish this thing strong, this can be a special season.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. Hey, and speaking of that too, now is the perfect timing for everybody to start gelling. And you would go back to last year, Steve. Even looking at some of the guys in particular that we need to step up more. Mike Erdl. I mean, he really didn't catch on until late last year too. So now, maybe him or maybe KJ steps up a little more or Lovin. Just we need the team to start gelling, right about now for these last couple weeks leading into the conference tournament because. I mean, now is where it's going to, all be on the line for this team. And you're definitely right. This is a very chance at UAB to have a very special season. And if, from here on out, and we go and win the tournament and go into the big dance, hey, I'm telling everybody is going to forget those 3 losses to ODU, Marshall, and Rice.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's you find a way to to get to the promised land, so to speak. And the whole journey is sort of not as clear. You just sort of think about the end of it, where you got, and that's like any other season. I mean, there's always I hate to go to football analogy here because we're talking basketball, but was 2018 in your mind? Was the 2018 UAB football season a special season? Just yes. Okay, all right. They lost to Coastal Carolina. I mean, yes. And I'm talking about a bad Coastal Carolina team, not the one right now, not the Grayson McCall Coastal Carolina team. I'm talking about a bad Coastal Carolina team,
right?
And got the dog beat on them in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the journey, but you tend to sort of when I think of the 2018 season, I think of the special ending. I think of the Middle Tennessee game, the bowl win. The way they played, defensively, throughout, or except for the Coastal game. But I mean, I think of the good times, So,
right.
So I think if this team can find a way to, win the conference, win this thing, or have a great ending to it and get in the NCAA tournament, then you're gonna forget those games, because that's just part of a season,
Right.
Very very few seasons for anybody go smoothly. I mean, go 100% smoothly. I mean, there's some special teams that's happened, but when's the last time I know the answer, but the last time an NCAA basketball team finished undefeated was 1970, whatever it was at 75 or 76 or whatever it was that Indiana did. It's a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, that's so long. I was almost a kid back then. That's how long ago that was.
Nice.
Just got to find a way. And I mean, the great thing is this team has a lot of good pieces.
Yes.
LeBlanc, need to get LeBlanc back and healthy and need to get some, and I think you mentioned Taven Lovin. I think he's a guy that really needs to be more consistent offensively. And I think part of it is it's just tougher for him right now to get the ball and get the opportunities.
Yeah.
Just with what they're doing. So, but I would love to see him finish this thing on a run where he's double digits every night, and is a focal point at times, during the game, which I don't know that he's a focal point a lot now because of, the pieces around him, and, I think they need, and they need to get consistent play and consistent time for some guys that, maybe are a little deeper on the bench right now. And, we'll see. I mean, we'll see it start, but again, got to start against Rice and go from there.
Definitely. And real quick before we move into recapping the ODU game, in all 3 of the conference losses on the road, UAB not only gave up 80 points in each one of those 3 ball games, but also gave up, field goal percentage. All 3 of those teams were over 50% or over. You look at the Rice game, they were 50% shooting the ball from the field. ODU was 51%. And then going back to Marshall, I mean, they were shooting nearly 55% from the field. And that just goes back to your point, defense, this is still a defensive team. And, going forward, we're just going to just need to see better defense and just need everybody locked in. You mentioned earlier about Quan really being the only consistent player recently. And, I tend to agree with you. Quan, he's always trying to, find the ball, playing really good defense, getting steals, and just moving the ball. But definitely need to see some other guys step up. And the other guys have, you go back to the Middle
Yeah.
Tennessee game,
Yeah.
and Jelly had the hell of a game with breaking the record. But, Jamal really stepped up in that game when,
Yeah.
we needed him, Jamal Johnson to hit a few threes, and he was able to hit a few threes. And Justin Brown going back to the WKU game on the road, everybody remembers Jelly's game-winning shot. Right before that, Justin Brown hit a clutch three, in that ball game to help Jelly get to that point to where we can win that game. So some guys have stepped up. We're just going to need to see it a little more consistently going forward.
Yeah, and again, they're all capable of it. I mean,
Yes.
You guys you're talking about are capable of it. I mean, I go back to you mentioned Ertl a minute ago. I mean, he's capable.
Yes.
He's capable of carrying an offense when he gets going. Hadn't done that recently. He needs to find a way to do that, and just down the list. I mean, you mentioned some good guys. I mean, I think even a guy like Tony come in and he might not give you he might not get a lot of minutes, but in the minutes he gets in there, he needs to have a huge impact.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of why you throw him in there to be an impact guy. Raji Gordon, I think, has really played well. He needs to play consistently. He needs to get, especially if LeBlanc is out for a little bit longer, he needs to play consistent. So, I mean, all these guys, that down the list. Again, it's easy to be a little disappointed right now after the most recent game, but I think the key to me is looking at it and saying there's still some pieces there to be a team that can win this conference. And honestly, I think that I think there's still some. I mean, there's obviously some work that Andy Kennedy and his staff will do in an off season, and they'll probably be a better team they are next year than they are this year. Because they'll have another year. But as of right now, I don't know. I think they have some pieces to win this thing, and just have to play consistently. And unfortunately, need a little help now with to at least to win the West. Which that's the unfortunate thing. But hey, that help we could be sitting there next week in the same time talking about how it's a tie at top of the West, and UAB has all the momentum in the world.
There you go.
We could be talking about that. And I hope we are.
Definitely agree with you, and same here, Steve. Well, let's go ahead and just jump into what happened Sunday. UAB does lose at ODU, 81-72, and real quick, just going back to the Southern Miss game, the game before that Thursday night. Obviously UAB getting the 21-point win over Southern Miss, but just watching UAB defend Stevenson, their big guy inside, he had over 24 points in that game. I was beginning to get a little concerned about ODU just with what Ezekpe and, of course, Trice, what they can do down low. And unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. ODU was able to take the time off the shot clock, which we know that's how ODU does. They're really, really slow-paced team, and they just fed it inside to their big guys, and they kind of, tore us apart, especially Trice, was able to get 20 points on UAB. Ezekpe only had 11, but he was in foul trouble really early on. I thought we did a good job on him for the most part. But, I mean, that's what it was. And it's just so frustrating, Steve, because UAB had a 7-point lead in the first half, winding down to the end of the first half. And then here ODU goes on like a 7-0 run, tying it up at 37-37, which is ironically the same score at halftime of the UAB Southern Miss game that Thursday night before. And then just second half, I don't know what it was, but ODU just kind of took it away in the second half, outscoring UAB 44-35. And as I mentioned, Trice just getting the best of, KJ and Trey Jemison on the inside.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's what, that's the thing. If I'm ODU, I'm a little frustrated, because where you are as a team, because that's what they do right there. That's kind of who they are, and they muddy it up. They try to slow it down, like you said, beat you inside. You're going to get a lot of fouls called, both ways. I mean, I think there was over 40 fouls called in the game,
right.
and so that's just kind of what they do, and so they've got to be a little frustrated. They hadn't been there before this year, hadn't done enough of that. And, and it just happened. And not having LeBlanc down there hurt, I mean, it hurt. I mean, not having an inside piece that you rely on, but you got to find a way to overcome that. And I think you kind of touched on it earlier, but it's tough when you have a guy that's been scoring like Jelly Walker has, and he has an off day, and then you're just kind of caught like, okay, what do we do now? What are we supposed to do? And I think that was part of it. I mean, he didn't have a great day. He just no, he did a good job. I mean, he had 7 assists, so he did a good job of trying to find out. And that's the great thing about him too, is I think he's third in the conference or whatever it is in assists. So here's a guy who's scoring all those points, and he's still looking for a guy. I mean, he's still getting the ball to other guys.
Right.
But sometimes you when a guy's been going like that, you just get caught up when, okay, well, he's going to bail us out, and that doesn't always happen, and it didn't Sunday, and we're sitting here where we're sitting here. So, but you got hey, you got to learn from it, and I mean, the worst thing you can do is let Sunday beat you, against Rice, or let Sunday beat you against North Texas. I mean,
right.
And I'm sure that's that's one of the first things that Andy Kennedy told his team. It can't, this can't, we got to change. We got to change what happened today, and turn it into, not a positive, because there's nothing positive about that, but get positive results out of a bad afternoon. So.
Definitely, yeah, and I'm ready to turn the page on Norfolk too. But I agree with you. Definitely could have used Joshua Blanc at that game. Unfortunately, for those that do not know, he is out with an injury, and we do not know when he is going to be able to come back. Hopefully, we can get him to come back before the tournament in Frisco, maybe sooner. But it's going to be a lot of Ranji Gordon going forward. So, you mentioned, guys having to step up. And, I mean, Ranji hasn't done bad. I mean, he's looked good in a couple, in the couple games. Like middle, he had some good plays. In the ODU, I mean, he scored 9 points. But he definitely was getting beat inside by those two bigs of ODU. But going to need him to step up some more. And, real quick, too, on the ODU game, look at the fouls. Trey Jemison, 4 fouls. KJ Buffin, 4 fouls. Ranji Gordon, 4 fouls. I mean, when your bigs are in foul trouble, it's kind of hard to be aggressive on defense, especially down low. When they're trying to feed those bigs, you really can't get a whole lot of contact, because if you do, then you're gone. So
yeah, that's tough. Now they had 3 guys with 4 fouls too, so it wasn't a one-sided thing. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, well, Trice only had 2, but I'll refrain.
But they had 3 others, though.
That's true. Yeah, Zeke Pay was in trouble. Yeah, he was in foul trouble real quick. Like when the second half just started, he had got his 4th. So that's a fair point. But I do think we can. I just hope we don't face ODU in the tournament, because that is one of those teams that probably can. Especially if LeBlanc's not back in Frisco. That's a team that could give UAB some fits for sure. But definitely need to turn our attention this week to the Rice Owls in North Texas. And honestly, I mean, you got to focus on Rice, because if you spend all your prep working for that North Texas game, I mean, hey, Rice has already beat you once. So, they're coming in, probably feeling pretty good about themselves. UAB lost to Rice in Houston 85-80 a few weeks earlier. And I mean, yeah, they lost it. They lost a home game last to North Texas, 67-44. But hey, UAB's gonna have to bring their A game, come Thursday night. I mean, that tip-off time is 7:00, and it will be aired on Stadium. Also, the game Saturday against North Texas will also be aired on Stadium if you want to watch. But we certainly hope everybody can make it out to Bartow for both of those games, because these are 2 huge games. UAB, as we mentioned earlier, I mean, they don't control their own destiny, but if you drop one of these 2 games, if you drop both of them, let alone one, then you're pretty much out of the race for getting that bye into the quarterfinals in the Conference USA tournament. So we definitely need everybody, if you can, to make it out to Bartow Arena and help cheer on our Blazers Thursday night and Saturday afternoon. But let's talk about Rice just a tad, Steve. In the last meeting, I feel like Evie was the hot hand. Yeah, he had 25 points against UAB. As I mentioned earlier, they shot 50% from the field, 38.1% from 3-point, and Evie was one of those guys. I mean, they've got a big boy inside too. So I mean, this Rice team is not going to be a slouch. UAB is going to have to take them pretty seriously. I think UAB will, especially coming off of the loss to them earlier in the year. But Steve, I just don't know what it is about Rice, man. You go back to our football season, you go back to basketball, like it just seems that Rice has our number lately, and I'm really hoping that changes Thursday night.
Just this year now.
Just this year, yeah.
Let's not go on. There's 2 games, 2 days they had the number.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I mean the thing is, if you let Pierre and Evie get going, then you're in trouble. I mean, you could be in trouble. I mean, obviously, those guys. I mean, those are 2 guys. You look at those 2 guys. They've combined for 135 3-pointers, made 3-pointers between the 2.
Golly.
Pierre shooting 43% from the 3 points, and Evie's shooting 40%. So those are guys that that's what they build around, and that's what they've kind of always done. The better teams there have had guys that can shoot, and they shoot a lot of threes, and generally the better teams they've had have had a guy inside that can clean some stuff up if you need it, which they have now too. So again, but if you can play, obviously I didn't see the North Texas Rice game, but obviously North Texas did something defensively that shut them down. They scored 44 points. So you just need to kind of do the same sort of thing and play defense. You got to start on the defensive end. Against these guys, you got to make sure those guys don't beat you from the outside and out rebound them and you're going to be okay. So
right.
And hey, I mean you do. It's always you have that motivation of what happened in Houston and you're playing at home. So I like UAB's chances. They just got to come out and do it.
Definitely agree there. Now, moving over to Saturday, North Texas comes to town, 3:00 p.m. Central Time. And again, this will also be aired on Stadium, but we certainly hope that if you're able to, make it out to Bartow and get there early too, because the UAB men's basketball account actually just announced officially that they're going to be giving out, it's a whiteout, so they're going to be giving out Steel Mill t-shirts, for the first, I think, 4,000 people that get there. So get there early and get ready to help cheer on the Blazers as they face the number 1 team in the West for now, coming into Birmingham. But UAB, kind of flipping the script, Steve, UAB kind of has North Texas's number. Looking back this year, we were able to win in the pit this year and then won 2 games back-to-back last year in March, right before the tournament. So I'm sure North Texas is going to come in motivated. But UAB, looking at North Texas, I mean, really, you've got to shut down Perry for sure. But they're a tough team. Tyler Perry is their guard, probably their best player on the field. But those guys, they just play really great defense. And you just mentioned, holding Rice to just 44 points. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch that game either because that game was on CUSA TV. I can't believe we're still using that service, to be honest, in 2022, but I'll refrain from any more comments. But North Texas is a really good squad. We faced them earlier, won a hard-fought game in the pit. So I'm expecting another battle here come Saturday afternoon in Bartow.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just so solid, and again, they don't beat themselves. They just play such great defense and just have, enough guys, enough offense, play well offensively. I think one of the differences in that first game was, Thomas Bell, who I love. I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
Didn't shoot the ball well in that game, and I think if he, if he plays a little better offensively, maybe they beat UAB the first time. I think some other guys played a little better, so I think he's going to be motivated to play a little better. And you're right. It starts with Tyler Perry.
And also and looking at, McBride was the guy that got us last time. He got it with 17 points. Yeah. So they've got a few good guys on there that could can not only play good defense but shoot it.
Yeah, McBride's their best 3-point shooter. He's made 54 in a year, but that the great thing about them is, you can look at all these offensive numbers and say, okay, well, this guy's their best 3-point shooter and he needs to shoot better. This, that, and the other. But they win with defense. I mean, that's
Yeah.
there's like that's what creates their wins, and so as long as their defense isn't slumping, they're pretty they're going to win games, and they're a pretty good team, and their defense hadn't slumped. So the UAB is going to have to go out and and really they did it the first game, and it really matched them defensively. I thought the first game UAB was tremendous defensively, and they got to match that. And they're capable of it. I mean, these are two best defensive teams in the conference. I don't know what the numbers say. I don't even care what numbers say. I'm just, from what I've seen, there's nobody better than these two playing when they're playing defense well.
Right.
Than these two. Again, UAB's had 3 games in conference where they didn't play well defensively, but I think other than that, they played really well for the most part. And so I think these are 2 really good defensive teams, and whoever wins that side of it is probably going to win this game on Saturday.
Definitely. And, and just thankful, we get both of these games this week at home. UAB does tend to play better at home in Bartow. So, hopefully when we come back next week and recap both the Rice and North Texas games for you guys, hopefully we're talking about a 2-0, and, UAB was able to get both of those victories, and even also hopefully, maybe the FAU Owls can do us a favor and take down North Texas Thursday night. But we'll have to see.
Dusty May, the old UAB assistant. Now, he needs to do his old school favor here.
There you go. Return the favor.
Come on, Dusty. Good guy. Good coach too.
Good. Hey, yeah, he's doing great things. I'm telling you, man. Heading into the season, I was not anticipating FAU to be at the top of the East, but hey, look at them. They're just behind middle. So doing good things down there near the beach. But on that note, guys, we'll see you next week, and we'll recap what happens against Rice and North Texas. But as always, go Blazers.